Hey everybody, how's it going?
Hey, hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
You ready for another week of live?
Yeah. Can everybody just let us know if they can hear us okay? Just want to double check that before we dive in.
Yep. All right.
Thumbs up, comment, let us know.
Let us know. I'm watching it here. All right. And also, I'm Justin,
I'm Michelle.
and we're from Image in a Box in Huntsville, Alabama, on this beautiful February 20, almost leap day.
Yeah, it's almost the extra day. Woo!
Almost the extra day. All right. So, let's see here. Just checking. All right. Yeah, I think we're good. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about what metrics that you need to be monitoring for your marketing campaigns. So let's dive in.
Well, first we got to define what a marketing campaign is. We can't just dive right into that topic, folks. Come on. All right, so what is a marketing campaign? So a marketing campaign is more or less, it's an organized effort to hit a specific goal. So retail shops, you probably see this all the time. Their campaign is a sell.
Right.
It might be a short sell, it might be a long sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one thing to think about when you're thinking about campaigns is to not feel like that it has to be this huge orchestration, but it could be something very simple and specific, but it could also be very large. So it could be one thing where you're trying to do just, get people to sign up for your event through Facebook, and that's it. You're running a Facebook ad or several Facebook ads and trying to get people to convert on your event. Or it could be something larger scale where you do have a promotion or you're doing a product launch and you're trying to get more people to just be aware of your product and then also hopefully sign up for like a demo or sign up in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anything around that is a marketing campaign. Right?
Yeah, the main thing is you have a goal that you're trying to reach.
And I'm glad she said that. You've got to have SMART goals.
Yes.
Goals. We talked about this in the last video. We'll probably talk about it at
every time.
I'm going to drop in a link to the chat specifically around SMART goals and what they are, how to create them, and those kind of things. So check that out in the links. But right before I do that, just because you create a SMART goal doesn't mean the campaign's going to be successful. How can you ensure, Michelle, that it's going to be successful? What do you need to do?
Well, you've got to monitor it. You've got to be able to monitor that goal. And so with a SMART goal, if you set them up in such that way, you will have some sort of metric that you're going for and trying to monitor. And then by doing that, you're going to actually think, okay, can I even monitor this goal? Because if you can't, then it's not necessarily the best goal, because then you have no idea if you're successful or not. And so that's sort of a bummer if you do this whole campaign and then you get to the end and you're like, well, wait a minute, we didn't even think about that. And so you didn't set up any kind of tracking, which didn't make you think of an actual metric to try to monitor. And so you really need to think about that, and by doing that, it allows you to figure out how you're going to monitor that metric, and then you'll know what tools you need.
Which is very important to do that before you start the marketing.
Yes, very much. Don't be retroactive on these things. You have to be proactive, and you have to think about it before the campaign starts so that you know what tool to use. So there are several tools that you can use, one being Google Analytics, one being your Facebook analytics, and also more specifically just Facebook custom conversions or conversion tracking, which is outside of the Facebook analytics sphere. But you can do that, and then you can also, if you're trying to see some stuff from email, you can use Google Analytics and also some email marketing platforms as well.
Right. Okay. So that's specifically around Facebook. To do the conversion tracking, you need to install, I think, the Pixel, right?
Yes, and we talked about that last week. We can pause here again. If you're watching this on replay, pause and go look into setting up a Facebook Business Manager account, which allows you to get a Facebook Pixel. But if you don't have those things, then you won't be able to do the custom conversions that we're talking about here today.
So I'm going to drop in 2 links on how to set up goals in Google Analytics and 1 link to set up custom conversions in Facebook. Again, as Michelle said, I'm going to repeat it because it's very important. You got to have the pixel installed. But the pixel's really only useful if you're running ads.
Well, yeah, so the thing about Facebook is it's going to be most useful if you're running Facebook ads for your campaign. Now, I mean, it can be retroactively useful, so go ahead and install it, but it is useful for the actual campaign monitoring, more so if you're running Facebook ads. So be sure to look into that. And then also with Google Analytics, which I'm assuming, that you all would already have it set up to track and monitor with their Pixel. They have a tracking code that you would need to get installed. So just want to make sure to mention that as well, because you can't just create a Google Analytics account and then access all of this. You actually have to have a little piece of code that would also get installed on your website.
Right. So in Google Analytics, when you create a goal, you can then measure the conversion rate and the conversions on your website. So it's very important to make sure you got Google Analytics running as well with that. So you always want to make sure you have the Facebook custom conversion created and the goal created in Google Analytics. I dropped in a link right now around the help. I'm about to drop in the link about a step-by-step on how to create a custom goal in Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is great from that sense of that you can see how people behave on your website, right?
Yeah, so Google Analytics is really good because it's going to give you a more holistic view of your campaign, because they even have campaign monitoring if you set that up properly, which that's a whole nother topic that we can get into on another Facebook Live. But basically you have campaign reporting that's going to show you everything from an omni-channel view of all the different things you're running. So if you're doing emails and you're doing Google display ads, Google search ads, Google grants ads, and if you're doing Facebook ads, it's going to show you all of that, or even Pinterest, all the other different social channels. Then you can see all of that in your Google Analytics view and see how things are running against the goals that you have set up in Google Analytics. Whereas on Facebook, you're going to see more of, now you can see all of that other view around campaigns as far as at least the traffic that you're getting around those different channels, but you won't be, but the key thing with Facebook is that with the conversions, you're going to be seeing the
Omni, right?
No, you're going to be seeing stuff around your ads.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because we have clients that actually will have an issue with the ads where sometimes it doesn't show that they're actually converting, and then you're like, but we weren't getting any conversions till we started running Facebook ads. That makes no sense. So that's where Facebook ads and the Facebook conversions comes in and is very useful, and even the Facebook analytics, because Google is more of a pixel based source. Yes, I'm not talking to you, Google. My phone. So Google is going to be pixel based, whereas that means that's device specific.
And that's done by a cookie on that device.
Correct. And then Facebook is actually person-based analytics. So there's a huge difference there. And that's a key thing to take into account, because if you think about it, when you have Facebook, you're signed in on your browser, you're signed in on your phone, you're signed in on your...
Installed.
Yeah, you could have the app. You might have it also installed on your tablet. So they know that you saw the ad and you're on the website. Like, they know all of those things with their tracking. So it's a more personalized approach to data analyzing and metric capturing.
The whole picture of a user's journey.
Right, and so you'll see discrepancies for sure between the two analytical platforms. Right. So it's really useful to look into both, because if you don't, then you're only seeing one side of the story and you may be missing something huge around how Facebook ads is actually converting. Because, and especially like your demographics, you got to think about, some people might they view each source as like serving certain purposes. So for their phone, they may be just doing some social media apps, and they might be doing, like texting and stuff, whereas they only do their purchases on their desktop.
And so they do the research on their mobile device or tablet.
Right.
And then once they find out what they want, they might use another device to complete that, because they feel more comfortable maybe.
Right, yeah, and just not used to. Well, I always purchase on my phone, but there are different user behaviors, and so if someone saw your ad and then later they see it again because they're home and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go over here to my computer and purchase that, then in Google, you're not going to see that conversion from Facebook ads.
It's going to look like a whole new user converted without any attribution to them.
It's going to probably show up as direct, honestly, because they're going to have seen it and they're going to type your URL in and go straight to it and check out, and it was really related to that Facebook ad. So that's where the Facebook analytics and Facebook pixel and the conversion tracking there can actually monitor a lot better.
So you're sort of hinting at maybe I should only live in Facebook's analytics and Facebook's custom conversions with their pixel, because of that ability to monitor somebody or track somebody. Why would I need to use both?
Well, because with Google, like we mentioned before, you're going to be able to see more of other channels, because your website is your main source, or should be your main source of conversions and stuff, because you control that channel. So you don't want to just live only in Facebook, because what if Facebook goes away? I mean, it doesn't appear that it will anytime soon, but like, what if they make some huge policy change, which has happened plenty of times to people, and then you lose like a huge source of revenue, or you have no control over that platform, but you do have control over your website. So it's really useful to have that. And so
well, that makes sense, because then if you're running other sources of traffic in from email, from other ad platforms, say you're on Pinterest, you're running ads, or even LinkedIn, you don't want to drive them to a Facebook page.
Right, and even in Google ads, you can't do that. Like, you can't run them. Yeah. Like, you have to run them to the domain that your ad account is set up on. So you have to have a website. So that's why Google Analytics is so powerful, because it's more holistic, and it's going to give you a bigger picture view, but you've got to think about these nuances that are associated with the cookie tracking and the more device-specific tracking. So just being knowledgeable on that, you can realize that, oh, okay, I need to look at these other tools too. I mean, and if you're huge on Twitter ads, or if you're huge on Pinterest ads, then you need to look some into their platforms as well to keep up with the conversion tracking. Now, some of those aren't nearly as robust as Facebook. That's why we're mentioning Facebook specifically, because they're not nearly as mature and as detailed. So
yeah, that makes sense. So just to recap that little segment, it's really important to use both analytical platforms, with the Pixel from Facebook and then the Google Analytics as well, because you'll see some cross between the two, and then also some very unique on each platform that can give you more insights about your visitors, which is the goal of marketing, is you want to understand what your users are doing, and if it's a converting or not converting. Well, I honestly want to know why the non-converters are not doing something.
Right.
But it could go back to just a different device, and that's why. And they actually, that same user converted. So now that you know what a marketing campaign is, and we talked about in the first section, we talked about how to monitor those. And remember, I dropped 2 links in on how to set up a goal in Google Analytics, and then also how to create a custom conversion in Facebook with the Facebook Pixel. And we're going to hit this one out of the park again. You need the Facebook Business Manager.
Yes.
I can't say it enough. Michelle won't say it enough. So now that you've got those two behind your back, what are some generic metrics or some common things that you might see when you're looking at this information when we have these set up? One of those things is around brand awareness. We're going to be specifically looking at reach and impressions. Now, each platform, including Twitter and Pinterest, all these other platforms that give you analytics, will use different words. Facebook talks about reach. Google Analytics talks about impressions in their ads. On your website will be more or less visitors, those kind of things. So when you're running a brand awareness campaign, those are the numbers you're looking for, because you're really doing your blanket marketing there. You're trying to reach as many as people. You're trying to get in front of them. Hey, look at me. A great and simple example is a billboard. That is brand awareness.
Yeah.
Timely, if you think about the digital side, I want to throw up a billboard at lunchtime because I'm a restaurant. Come eat at my place.
Right.
Around a lead marketing campaign, you want to generate leads. You would be more or less specific at the number of submissions that have happened, how many users have come to that page, maybe even how many newsletter signups, or even, we're going to take this back to the old school, phone calls.
What's that?
Yeah, some people still don't do that.
Text messaging numbers. Think about that too.
You'd be surprised how many people like to pick up a phone, and that goes back to learning more about your audience. And so your demographics might say that phone call is actually more important than a form submission.
Yeah.
So again, those are generic around the marketing campaigns. Michelle, what would you say is a great marketing campaign around an e-commerce platform?
Yeah, well, one thing just to step back and talk about the brand awareness and the leads and even just the goals in general is to think about like what your number of the reach is and the number of the lead conversions that you're trying to get. Because if your number is really small, then from the conversion tracking standpoint, you're actually not going to, the ad itself won't get the feedback that it needs to if you set your conversion too granular. So if you think you're only going to get like 10 lead submissions, because say you're like a really high priced type of business, so that's huge for you, but if you're only looking for 10 leads, then that's not going to work well with the pixel feedback to get the conversion tracking going. So you might want to step your goal back just one step in the buyer's journey so you can get higher numbers around some kind of conversion metric. So you also might want to think about stuff around like certain pages that they might visit before they fill out those kinds of forms to like qualify themselves. So then you could set up those custom conversions to look into what pages they view and set that as your custom conversion.
Like almost.
Right, yeah, think of
what
it.
What are people doing to get to that form?
And so then it broadens your actual conversion number and makes that easier to reach higher numbers so that then it can feed back into your ad better. So you're, instead of saying in the tens of numbers, you want to be higher, closer to the hundreds and higher than that of conversions to really get that pixel performing top notch.
Okay. So let's talk about e-commerce then from a conversion standpoint. What would be some of those goals / campaigns that we might try to use?
So with e-commerce, you've got a few different things to think about. Obviously, sales and revenue are going to be huge around e-commerce because that's sort of the whole point of that type of website. So you may have specific metrics for this sale or for this campaign around a certain amount of increase in sales. That's something to think about, or just an increase in the quantity of signups. And thinking, going a step back further into the funnel, it might be, people that favorite certain products or are adding products to cart. You may have, that might be your conversion metric, so you have a larger quantity of people doing that.
So, okay, that makes sense there.
And then if you're thinking about e-commerce as a software, as a service, where you have people actually paying a monthly subscription or an annual subscription to your to have access to your content on your site, then you're going to be wanting to think about product demos, people signing up to actually do a demo of the software, or trials, or just converting and signing up in general. So
yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we got e-commerce. Those are pretty simple because the goal is sales, right? What about like a nonprofit?
So a nonprofit, it's going to be, multiple different things, but one to think about is, okay, if you're doing like a big donation push and you're trying to get a lot of revenue, or, donations, then obviously it's going to be trying to get people to sign up to be one-time donors, recurring donors, that sort of thing. If you've got some big events coming up that you need volunteers for, then volunteer sign up is going to be a conversion, or people that just view the volunteer pages, again, to take it a step back in the funnel. And then, thinking about big events that you have that you may be wanting to get people to sign up for the event, or to register to help with the event. So those are all sort of things that a nonprofit might want to convert on.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So B2C is business to consumers. Let's talk about B2B, so business to business companies. What would they try to go for? What could they do?
Well, so it really depends on what kind of information that they have readily available. So if they don't have any kind of offers that they can get people to download, or if they don't have any kind of access to some sort of white paper or case study, then they may want to, or even an ebook or something like that, they may want to think about it more of like people that are asking for consultations or quotes, and those sorts of things, because those are less like tangible things that they could actually sign up to do through a form and that sort of thing. But again, going a step back in the funnel, it may be more of like the type of pages that they view, like they view certain service pages, and that sort of thing, and then hopefully they will convert later. And then you've got to also think about how HR and marketing are also combining forces these days. So you may have a new position that you're trying to promote and get applicants for. So you actually may want to set a goal around the amount of applications to receive, or people to view the job posting, again, to back it up a little bit. And then also, if you do have any kind of offers like ebooks and those sorts of things, then you're going to want to try to have a goal around that. So
you maybe think of another one that you could possibly do for a B2B is the time on page. If they go to one of your service pages and the time on page is over, say, 30 seconds or even a minute, and you've got a good, and your page is not just one paragraph, but you've got a good bit of information, more than likely that user could be reading and trying to learn more about your company. That could be something you set up as well.
Well, right, and I believe, which I'm not the Google Analytics expert, but I believe you can also set up conversions around like scrolling, percentage scroll on the page. So that may be something to consider too, that they're actually like engaging with the content. They're not just like
clicking through.
Well, they didn't just end up on the page and then someone said something and they were on the page for a minute. They actually were like scrolling and engaging with the content on the page.
So again, but you take those with a grain of salt, but you can do scroll depth. You can also do time on page on both platforms. That requires a little bit of a developer help there, but you can achieve those things. All right, so let me recap what we talked about today. So we talked about what a marketing campaign is. Basically, it's a organized effort of a specific company goal. How to monitor those. And again, we posted 2 links in the chat. One around specifically Facebook and one around Google Analytics. Then we also talked about what are some common maybe marketing campaigns that you might run for your company depending on what industry you're in, and then also what words and metrics you might see as well. So again, you can use the Facebook custom conversions to measure those custom, all right, and then you can also in Google Analytics, you can use goals to measure those conversions as well. Now again, I know a lot of people aren't 100% familiar with Google Analytics. We have a great 9-day training course that sends it right to your cell phone. All you have to do is text 256-488 1234 and text the word demo. That will get you a text message once per day with a short video. What I think it's like less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think the longest one's a little over 8 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
it's half of this live event.
Oh yeah, less than half, a third.
Yeah, and then you will go from someone who might not be feeling comfortable in Google Analytics to saying, I know exactly how to pull reports, I know what screens to go look at if someone ever asks you for information from it.
Yeah.
So it's great from there. So what we're going to do is that's it.
Yeah.
You know, thanks for joining in, and if you see this later, the links are there, and if any moment you have any questions, just let us know. You can comment on the video, you can reach out to us in Facebook Messenger, you can fill out a form on our website, or you can even call us. We'll respond to all of them, right?
Yeah.
So I'm Justin, and we're going to look for some comments.
Yeah, let's see. We got any questions?
Not at this moment, so we'll keep watching it after the live event.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and put that texting number out there as well.
Yeah,
So,
I'll comment out there.
thanks everybody.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye.